Unfortunately for the police, the beating of Delbert Africa was caught on camera.
I went to exit the basement after a cop stuck his gun in the window, and is plainly seen on the later police videotape. And he told me, "Bring your black ass out here." And I said, "I'm going out the front. Come out this way, I'll blow your damn head off." Boom. Obviously, I came out that way. And the next thing I remember was being dragged across Pearl Street by my hair by some cop. I don't know who. And then when they dragged me, got me up on the curb, then a bunch of them just started kicking.
Geist, Mulvihill, and Zagami were all brought up on charges of police brutality a few years later, but Judge Stanley Kubaki dismissed the case.
Only 2 days ago, 3 of the officers charged in the beating surrendered to assault charges. That sparked a protest by 500 fellow officers pointing out they also wear blue. And the head of the police union gave his thoughts on those who beat Delbert Africa.
What they should have done is shot that goddamn bum, and then there would have been no trouble today.
I was seduced into the MOVE organization by the loveliness and goodness of its people and its members. I was probably enraged as well as sitting in a trial in an official capacity, objective as a journalist, and seeing that the law really didn't matter, that it didn't matter whether a man was innocent or guilty. It didn't matter what the law says your rights were. You just had 9 members of the MOVE organization being sentenced to 30 to 100 years for a crime that everybody knew they did not commit. I mean, 9 people cannot kill 1 man. What you had in Philadelphia in '81 was the naked state judicial terrorism of the Philadelphia judiciary against the MOVE organization. It was like, let's wipe them out. It's impossible for me to say what my feelings were in that time. Sitting in a courtroom, seeing that kind of naked injustice, it rankled me to the core.
When I first started going to the hearings, the thing that really struck me was MOVE people. I had never seen anybody represent themselves on their own and not be intimidated at all by the judge, the prosecutor, the sheriffs that were in the courtroom, the police witnesses. I mean, MOVE people were not intimidated by any of that. They were simply using the truth as their defense. And I mean, I was just really impressed with that, because none of the MOVE 9 had gone to law school or anything like that, but they were armed with the teaching of John Africa, which allowed them, equipped them to just expose the lies that these witnesses, police witnesses, prosecution witnesses, were telling.
You have to understand that the MOVE organization had challenged the authority and the jurisdiction of every courtroom that any MOVE member ever stepped in, and they challenged it, vigorously, and they challenged it from the outset, so that the power of the court to hear their case, whatever case there might have been, was always challenged by MOVE. That you don't have authority, you don't have the power to hear this case, and it was really a very powerful challenge to the power of the state inside the courtroom.
I saw the judge being able to do nothing but try to run interference and threaten MOVE people with contempt. And that's what led to Delbert really coming at the judge the day that I got arrested, that I just told you about, because what Delbert started telling the judge is, look, I don't care about no damn contempt. My life is on the line here. My freedom is on the line here. What I care about a contempt of court, you know? And start giving them information. And I can't think of, too many people at all that would come at a judge like that, And I was just really impressed, and it kept me coming back. And I began to see how impotent and unpowerful You know, the judge was, the prosecutor. I mean, all these people that we're trained to see as having all this authority, all this power. I saw how John Africa disarmed them, because what they use is intimidation. You know, the threat of contempt, the threat of jail. Move people wasn't intimidated by that. So that disarmed them. So what did they have? What could they do? You know, that's what I was really impressed with. And then to just really see how these cops, how the judge even would just lie. You know, I remember one day they were showing the police video tape, you know, of August 8th in the courtroom. And they had the big TV set sitting up on the judge's bench right there for him to see it. And then they had other screens, you know, down on the floor for the spectators to see, and the defendants and the prosecutor to see. And I remember Delbert pointing out, he happened to look around at the judge's screen. It was all fuzz. Wasn't no picture. And the judge was just sitting up there like he was looking at it, and there was no picture. And Delbert exposed them. So, I mean, it was just crystallizing to me more and more that this wasn't even about a trial. That was just a formality, you know. Didn't matter what happened in that courtroom. How many lies moved people exposed. The conclusion was already set, you know, because the judge didn't care about what the videotape showed or whatever. I mean, this is a judge who later said that on the videotape you could see a bullet coming from the move house and striking James Rent. Now, how the hell do you see a bullet? I mean, what's he, Superman? He got X-ray vision or something? You know? I mean, just ridiculous things that these people say out their mouth and expect people to just accept it. And a lot of people do, unfortunately. But those kinds of things are what stood out to me in the move trials. After arresting my sisters and brothers, city officials completely demolished MOVE headquarters, the scene of the crime, the place where MOVE people were supposed to have shot this cop to death from. Now, if you destroy the evidence, the scene of the crime, how can you then proceed with prosecuting somebody?
They destroyed the whole crime scene, the entire crime scene. The house, the tree where they said the first bullets went into, the bullet that came out the cop's head, I mean, everything.
Rizzo and his people didn't want the evidence that he knocked down the trees, knocked down the house and everything, and that was unusual because you should have an investigation to come in, because we were able to see the trees and see the bullet, the marks of bullets, you know, had ricocheted off the building.
Essentially, I think what I was witness to was after the MOVE members were taken away, the bulldozing, which was very astonishing to me that they could do something like that.
From the time the last MOVE member got out of the house until the time that the city brought a wrecking crane in to tear the property down, because they allegedly were afraid that MOVE members would try to reoccupy the house. Now just think about that for a minute. The police come in, secure the scene. They can maintain guard around the house, but they claim that they had to tear the house down to make sure that nobody would reoccupy the house because they were fearful that later that evening, MOVE members who weren't in the house and their sympathizers would try to reoccupy the property. Preposterous.
All I know is there was destruction of the truth, and that was what I was eyewitness to.
Look at this case and the facts in this case. There's no evidence that there was a conspiracy to kill the cop, to kill the police officer. There was no evidence of that. The evidence that was put on at trial was that there were individuals seen at the window with weapons, firing those weapons. That's what the police officers testified to, and they identified those individuals. However, the whole theory of the prosecution was that there was a conspiracy, and again, it goes back to that original bizarre theory was which is that there was a conspiracy that began 16, 15, 18 months before and traveled all the way through based on words that were said on a porch, allegedly said on the porch by MOVE members about what they would do to protect themselves. And as a consequence, the judge bought into that theory. So his position was, you're going to trial as a group, you're going to get convicted as a group, you're going to be sentenced as a group. Essentially ignoring all the important constitutional safeguards that each individual should be tried on the facts as it applies to each individual. And each individual should be sentenced based on individual sentencing factors and not sentenced en masse as a group based on association or based on this ridiculous notion of conspiracy.